What's going on? Alex here, and today I'm answering your questions from the YouTube comments. That's right. You leave questions, I answer them in a video. It's a beautiful thing. And today's question has to do with how to pass the Enrolled Agent or EA exam. Let's take a look. All right, so this question comes from Sandy M. And Sandy asks, what class or course did you take to study for your EA test? All right, so the Enrolled Agent exam is what allows you to earn the EA credential, which generally allows you to represent taxpayers in front of the IRS. And aside from that, it makes you a pretty deadly tax expert to boot, all right? And with regard to what I used to pass the exam, all three sections, is this bad boy right here. This is the exact book that I used, and you can see here, it's 2014 to 2015 edition. So back in the dinosaur times, I used this exact bad boy to get through the test. Now, you'll see that this is the complete version. And what that means is that all three sections are handled here in one book. Now, what am I talking about? There's individuals. That's one section of the exam. Then section 2 is the business section. And then section 3 is the representation section. All right, and all of them are combined in a single book. Now, there's a few things I liked about the book. The first thing is that while it's fairly dense in terms of there just being a lot of text on the page, it's very much to the point, all right? It's important. When you're talking taxes, it's very easy to get into the fluff and kind of get lost as to what the point is, but this is very succinct. It hits on the points directly in many cases, and that can reduce your study time because you know the important points to keep in mind. Aside from that, every chapter has questions. Let me show you. All right. So that's what it looks like. And it's a multiple choice question, very much like the EA exam itself. And once you go through all the unit questions, the beauty is that in the back, it has the answers. But more than that, it has the explanations for the answers. So let me just show you a little peek over here. Okay. So it'll tell you that it's A is the answer, and here's why. And that why is super critical, because if you know what the answer is, but you don't know why that's the answer, that's pretty useless. But in this case, it'll tell you that, hey, the answer is D because, and that because is critical. So the way I approached studying for this exam is that I went through every chapter in terms of reading it, making flashcards. I love flashcards. It's a beautiful way to learn, at least for me. And once you go through the chapters, try to take on the questions. And for example, for chapter 1, I would go to the questions section and I would go through all the questions and then grade myself because the answers are in the back of the book. I hate books that don't give you the answers. Once I understand that, okay, I got 10 questions right, 10 questions wrong, let's say, those wrong questions I would notate to come back to, because if you got it right, you already know it. If you got it wrong, that's something you need to brush up on. So let's say I have 10 wrong questions from chapter 1. Then I move on to chapter 2. And from there, I will also make a list of the questions that I got wrong, and then chapter 3, 4, and so forth. Now, what am I doing with all these wrong answers? I'm going to the back of the book. I'm seeing what the point is that I didn't get in answering that question, make a flashcard out of it. All right, so now I'm drilling the flashcards in terms of I didn't understand this concept. Put that question on the flashcard, put the answer on the back, and make sure you can recall it when that flashcard comes up. So once you drill that over and over and over and over again, and the way I did it was actually write down the answers on a piece of paper. So I would get a flashcard, and it said, what are the different filing statuses? And I would just write single, married, filing, joint, all the others. And with that, it reinforces your understanding and memory. All right. And then once you take all the flashcards and you go through them for all the wrong questions that you did and all the other concepts that you need to absorb, go back to all those questions you got wrong and drill them again. And from that point, you may only get 3 out of 10 wrong. Okay. Focus on those 3. Make more flashcards about those concepts that you still have not understood fully, and keep narrowing down to those issues that you're having trouble with. Don't focus on the stuff that's easy, the stuff that you know and you got right. You don't need to focus on that. You know it, right? You need to focus on those items that you're lacking understanding and it's not really coming together for you. That's where you need to put the bulk of your effort. So as I'm going through the book, I'm making flashcards on the different points just so I can recall it later when the flashcard comes up. Again, reinforcing the memory. Again, drilling the questions that you got wrong. Very important to notate those because those are your weak points, the ones you need to reinforce. Once I've got through the entire section of individuals, I would still bring up those questions that I got wrong, do them again, do them again. The point is not to memorize the answer. The point is to make sure you understand the underlying concepts. And for the most part, the book provided a lot of the information that you need. You may need to do some outside research, find some videos, other reference materials that explain things a little bit differently. I was personally confused a bit by the section 1245, section 1250, section 1231 loss. That area was a bit confusing for me, so I had to look up some additional resources. But for the most part, these pages contain the key to passing the exam. Now, in terms of cost, I have no idea what I paid for this book back in the dinosaur ages, but because I love to give you guys the latest and greatest, I looked up the pricing that is currently applicable for these books. So I just Googled Passkey EA review. I got these books right here. So what I do notice is that they separated it into 3 different books now. So you have one for individuals, one for business, one for representation. And I don't think this book cover, as a side note, can get any more patriotic. I think if they put maybe Hulk Hogan on the front, that's the only way this can be more American. But anyway, let's take a look at the pricing. All right, so I clicked the Amazon links here, and this is the part 1 individuals book. And whoa, look at that price. Made my eyes water a little bit. If I recall, this book cost somewhere in the area of $100 to $200 when I purchased it. Now, it looks like inflation has taken hold, to say the least. And this paperback version of the first part for the exam is $85 on Amazon. Okay. Second part, similar situation. This kind of is even worse because you got the part 2 businesses section costing $100. And then part 3, representation, you have that costing $90 as well. So you're looking at about $300 all in to get through the exam based on the current pricing. Made my eyes water. It's a little bit difficult to absorb and digest, but that's sometimes what you have to pay to accomplish your EA dreams. Do I think it's worth it? Yes, I still think it's worth it because you can pay for this by doing a single tax return for a client or even half a tax return, depending on what you're charging. So with that, I don't think that this price should be a deterrent if you really need to space out the cost so you can manage it from an affordability perspective. Just take one section at a time. Take individuals, boom, then move on to business, then move on to the other sections, because you also don't want to get halfway through the individuals and realize you hate taxes, you never want to look at it again, and this is the bane of your existence. And by the way, you purchased 3 books that you have to deal with now. So that might be the way to approach it. Just get it done piecemeal. I would recommend to go in that order, part 1, part 2, and 3, and then it'll allow you to get that much closer to nirvana. All right. So Sandy, hopefully this was helpful. If you have any other questions, feel free to leave them in the comments below. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, do all those YouTube-y things. And with that, thanks for watching, and I hope this was helpful.